Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into the source material for this week, covering December 8th through the 14th, 2025.
And this week is a big one.
It really is. I mean, if you've been feeling like you're operating under some kind of perpetual mist, intellectually, emotionally, just directionally.
Then this is your week. The sources are pretty clear that this is a critical turning point.
So our mission here is to really pull out the actionable insights. We're focusing on, emotional honesty, finding some actual direction.
Exactly. And navigating what the material describes as a period of, necessary self-reflection. We're looking for that shortcut to understanding something about ourselves that's felt just out of reach.
The big picture then seems to be about stripping away noise.
Yeah.
Letting the illusions finally go quiet.
So the truths can surface.
Yeah.
The sources call it a mandatory perceptual cleanup.
I like that. And we know the main driver here, right? It's all about Neptune.
It's all about Neptune. It's the planet of dreams, spirituality, but also delusion. And it's just finishing a 5-month retrograde phase.
So that signals a huge shift in how we're seeing things.
A massive shift. Individually and, collectively too.
Okay, let's unpack that scale for a second. Neptune's been in Pisces since, 2011?
April 2011. So we are dealing with the final integration of a nearly 14-year cycle. That's monumental.
So when the planet of fantasy and vision slows down and then, reverses course, this chapter has to end in a big way.
It does. I mean, think about it. The sources call Neptune the planet that blurs the edges, softens logic, and spins fantasies.
Right.
For the last decade and a half, we've all been kind of swimming in these visionary themes. Hyperconnectivity, digital idealism, certain spiritual movements.
Things we've been romanticizing.
Exactly. So when Neptune finally turns direct on December 10th, what happens?
The spell starts to break.
That's the phrase the sources use. From December 10th through late January, the spell starts to break. It's like a collective clearing of the emotional windshield.
So the things we've been avoiding or glamorizing,
in our jobs, our relationships, whatever, they stand revealed for exactly what they are, and now you have to deal with the actual structure underneath the fantasy.
but if we're letting go of all that idealism, isn't there a risk of just becoming cynical, trading one extreme for another?
That is an excellent question, and it's the most common misstep. The analysis is really clear on this. Clarity is not cynicism.
Okay.
The safeguard is faith. And not blind optimism, but a real cultivated trust in your intuitive insights. As the logical fog lifts, your intuition gets louder.
And the insights that survive that logical scrutiny,
Yeah.
those are the ones to hang on to.
Precisely. You rise above the purely human perspective, as the sources put it.
This feels very actionable. So what are we supposed to be letting go of specifically?
Well, the big one is overly idealistic visions that we know deep down just don't have substance.
No legs.
No legs. And also our own personal avoidance mechanisms. The sources are very pointed here. It's not just about big, obvious addictions.
That's the subtle stuff.
The subtle apathy, the little escapes, the emotional numbing that gives you relief for an hour, but just keeps the real problem perfectly preserved.
So the truth shows up. It's maybe not as pretty as we hoped. And the temptation is to fall back into that apathy.
Right. Or to fight it.
So what's the counter move?
Surrender. That's the word the material uses over and over. Surrender. Let go of needing to see the immediate outcome. Have faith in the larger blueprint.
So you might not know the next 10 steps.
Not at all. But the intuitive message is that you've been drifting in the right direction all along. The view is just obstructed.
And now it's time to listen.
To that deeper knowing that finally has room to breathe.
Okay, so while all this internal fog is thinning, the external world doesn't wait. It starts the week with a lot of pressure.
Yes. Right at the start, we get the friction of Mars squaring Saturn.
Which is all about patience.
Yeah.
Or the lack thereof.
And follow through. It's the universe giving us the container we need. You have Mars, which is all enthusiasm and impulse. And then you have Saturn, the demanding parent of discipline and responsibility. And when they square off, they challenge you to turn that raw aspiration into something real, something stable.
Something that will actually last.
Something grounded in genuine authenticity.
The sources describe that feeling so well. Frustration, obstacles, delays. That sense that every task can feel like it requires 2 extra steps.
Oh, it's exactly that. Like trying to run through wet cement.
Yes. Impatience meets this immovable reality. And deadlines feel tighter. You might clash with authority figures.
Or even just your own internal sense of authority, right? It's a real test. but it forces a measured, mindful effort.
So the question for yourself on Monday is, where am I rushing and where am I resisting the discipline I actually need?
That's it. Because if you try to just push through a real obstacle with that Mars impatience, Saturn will push right back. Hard.
So it forces us to slow down, check the foundation.
Make sure our methods are solid. And it can make us a little less collaborative, too. A bit more, I'm doing it my way, even if it's the hard way.
It seems so counterintuitive, though. Why put this grinding frustration right before a huge wave of clarity?
Because the effort creates the capacity. You can't build a new structure of truth on loose sand. This friction makes the insight practical. Without it, the clarity would just be another fleeting vision.
Another fantasy. Okay, that makes sense. The pressure on Monday and Tuesday sets the stage for what comes next.
The insight blitz.
Yes, the midweek insight blitz. This is where Mercury, planet of communication and thought, just takes over.
And all that structural work starts to pay off. On Wednesday, we get Mercury opposite Uranus, and that is high voltage.
It's described as a convergence of intuition and intellect. It's not just a good idea, it's a sudden revelation.
A revelation that can shatter an outdated way of thinking. Astonishing truths, fresh concepts. It's like an electrical surge to the brain.
And the sources say the way it gets delivered is key. It's through weird timing.
Totally weird timing. An email from someone you haven't heard from in years. A phrase you overhear in a cafe. The sources mention conversations we cannot unhear.
Wow. And this is when a secret might pop up, or a relationship dynamic you've been rationalizing for ages suddenly becomes
Painfully obvious, that's the quote. You can understand in 5 minutes something that's confused you for 5 months.
But all that electrical energy comes with some risks, right? Nervous tension.
A lot of nervous energy.
Yeah.
And a high risk of miscommunication. Uranus is sudden change, so your thoughts can go down some pretty unsettling roads.
So the key is to grab the insight, but maybe don't act on the nervous impulse immediately.
Let it process first. Definitely.
And then, right after that jolt, Mercury shifts into Sagittarius on December 11th.
So the whole style of thinking changes again.
It changes dramatically. The mind just awakens. It starts searching for higher meaning, for truth, for the big picture.
We're moving from just sorting facts to actually synthesizing knowledge.
Yeah, and that's a huge shift for how we communicate, too. Suddenly we can articulate these big, complex ideas that felt impossible to explain just days earlier.
The style becomes more expressive, more visionary.
But there's a catch.
There's always a catch. It's the double-edged sword of Mercury in Sagittarius. You gain integrity in your message, but you can lose tact.
So very direct.
Very direct. Opinions are shared freely, and there's a tendency to become a little dogmatic about these new beliefs you've just found. You have to make sure your directness is coming from integrity, not just impulse.
And then the final piece of this whole blitz is Saturday. Mercury sextile Pluto.
Right. So if Uranus delivered the shock, Pluto helps us get the depth.
Thoughts have weight.
Incredible weight and penetrating power. The material says insights land like truth arrows. They hit the mark and they stick.
So this is the day for deep investigation, for seeing through the nonsense.
Exactly. Understanding the power dynamic underneath the situation. It's like having mental X-ray vision.
Okay, let's ground all of this. Let's walk through Lila's journey, which is the narrative the sources provided. This is how it all manifests in a real week.
And her story maps that whole transformation perfectly, from resistance to just undeniable relief.
So her Monday morning starts, and it's that Mars-Saturn friction immediately. She's got this project deadline, but every email, every call just feels sluggish.
She feels the city itself is strangely heavier, and she finds herself muttering, why does everything suddenly require 10 steps instead of 2?
That's that Mars impatience hitting the Saturn brick wall. She's faced to slow down to double-check her foundation, which, she would have just skipped otherwise.
Then by Tuesday, that emotional Neptune fog settles in before it stations direct. She starts to feel this veneer of self-deception she's been operating under.
She's avoiding looking too closely at her goals.
Catching herself romanticizing things she'd long outgrown, specifically a business partnership that had clearly run its course.
And then there's that moment in the mirror where she just whispers, all right, enough pretending.
That's it. That is the Neptune shift beginning its quiet work. That moment of surrender to realism.
Then Wednesday hits. Mercury, Uranus, the shock. She's exhausted, and she gets this bizarrely perfect but inconvenient message.
From someone she hadn't talked to in 2 years. Just a casual comment about someone else's new business.
But that one comment contained the sharp, unmistakable truth about why her own project was stalled.
It wasn't the external stuff. It was the outdated emotional attachment she still had to that old partnership.
Her mind just shifts. The sources say she felt nudged awake by a bolt of clarity. Restless, alert, almost electric.
And she's just scribbling in her notebook, connecting dots that were floating around abstractly before. And her last thought that night is, I've been missing the absurdly obvious, haven't I?
The intensity changes on Thursday.
Yeah.
The energy is less shocking, more intuitive. Mercury trine Neptune.
She doesn't have to analyze it anymore. She just knows it. She finds herself trusting that quiet feeling about her project's future more than all the logical arguments she'd been making for months.
And we see the result on Friday. She uses that new Mercury in Sagittarius clarity, direct but insightful. She has the tough conversation.
She does. And her words just. They carry weight. She says what she means. And when her friend later says that took serious courage, Lila's response is just.
It was overdue.
Yeah. That's integrity and communication finally lining up.
Saturday brings that intellectual confirmation, the Mercury-Pluto energy. She's cleaning her office and finds these old journals from 2011, right at the start of the whole Neptune cycle.
And reading them, she sees these recurring emotional patterns, these self-sabotage loops that are just absurdly obvious now.
The sources say she laughs out loud. There's no shame, just relief.
Relief that the repeating loop has finally been seen and named.
Yeah.
That the truth had finally landed like an arrow finding its mark.
But the week isn't over. There's a final test on Sunday.
The wobble. Mercury square Neptune. The clarity gets a little blurry again. She's facing this impulsive decision about a new venture, and she feels that flicker of doubt.
And she stops herself. She asks, what am I avoiding? Why am I hesitating?
She knows. She knows that even with all this clarity, she can't just make a bold leap without checking the facts. She can't trade this hard-won reality for a new, shiny fantasy.
What a profound arc for a week. From friction and resistance to that stunning clarity, and then quiet, integrated realism.
It really is. The shift wasn't this loud, dramatic event. It was a quiet, undeniable peeling away of layers.
And that's Lila's ultimate realization. The fog is thinned, the illusions have gone quiet.
And beneath it all, a more authentic, manageable path is finally visible. And the opportunity for you, the listener, is to recognize that deeper part of yourself that's woken up and now trusts its own navigation.
So the takeaway is realizing you were probably heading in the right direction all along. You just couldn't see it clearly. You lacked that intuitive trust.
And the hard work from Monday, that Mars-Saturn friction, it built the muscle you needed for the honesty that arrived midweek.
It's all connected.
This whole week encourages us to value that instinctual knowing that survives the logical scrutiny of Mercury. So we'll leave you with a final thought to take into your week.
What clear, undeniable message did you receive this week that your logic is currently trying to dismiss? Maybe it feels too simple or too inconvenient.
That dismissal, that's your signal. It's your signal to go within and reinforce the deeper truth you've just uncovered.